Welcome to the deep dive. You're here because you want to speak English more fluently,
Right.
no, more naturally, without constantly translating everything back and forth in your head.
Yeah, that mental gymnastics routine.
Exactly. Well, today we're really zeroing in on a pretty crucial skill, how to shift from doing that translation to actually thinking in English.
Mhm.
We've got some, I think, really useful insights, stuff that gets right to the practical techniques for making that mental switch.
Absolutely. The mission today is basically to arm you with concrete strategies,
Hmm.
things you can actually do.
So you can express yourself more smoothly, more confidently, without getting bogged down.
Exactly. We're looking at approaches that really stress the benefits of just engaging directly with English in your thoughts, skipping that translation step
Right.
entirely.
It's about finding a more direct path for your thoughts to become speech.
That's a good way to put it.
And this is so important, isn't it? Because you, the listener, you're looking for ways to, well, level up your English efficiently. And thinking in English isn't just like a nice extra, it feels fundamental. It can really speed up your progress.
Oh, definitely. It's a game changer for many learners.
So we're going to break down how to get started. And honestly, it seems more about smart strategies than needing some kind of super brain.
Not at all. It's very achievable with the right approach.
Okay, so let's dive in. Why is relying on translation? Why is it such a hurdle anyway? What's the core problem?
Well, the fundamental issue, it really boils down to speed, processing speed, and the natural rhythm of a conversation.
Yeah, okay.
When your brain first thinks of something in your native language and then has to actively, consciously convert it into English, well, it creates a lag, a delay.
Ah.
And that delay shows up as those, awkward pauses, the runes, a hesitation.
Or that feeling where the word is right there, but you just can't grab it fast enough because you're translating.
Precisely. That frustration.
Yeah. It's like trying to chat with someone through a really slow, maybe slightly confused interpreter.
Exactly. You lose all the spontaneity, the back and forth, the flow.
Right. So the key insight here is thinking directly in English just cuts out that middleman, which leads to faster, smoother, ultimately more natural sounding speech.
That's the goal. Faster and more natural.
Sounds great in theory, but how do we actually start training our brains to do that? It sounds kind of hard.
It definitely takes conscious effort, no doubt.
Yeah.
But the techniques themselves, they're surprisingly accessible, not overly complicated.
Okay. Like what?
Well, one of the first steps people often talk about is just simple labeling.
Labeling.
Yeah. Throughout your day, just make a deliberate mental note in English of the objects around you. So instead of just seeing your coffee cup and thinking the word in your language, you internally say, this is a coffee cup, or, this is a desk. That is a window.
Okay. It seems really basic, but I can see how that starts forging a direct link, English word to actual thing.
Exactly. It's foundational. You're building that direct connection, bypassing the translation.
It's like wiring your brain's dictionary differently. English first for the things you see.
That's a good analogy.
And it doesn't stop at just naming things, does it? The stuff we looked at also mentions describing.
Precisely. Yeah, that's the natural next step. Once labeling feels a bit more automatic, you add descriptive details.
So instead of just coffee cup.
You think the coffee cup is warm, or the coffee cup is white. Instead of just desk, maybe the desk is made of wood, or the desk is messy.
Got it. So you're expanding from single words into simple English sentence structures in your head.
It encourages your English thinking to grow, to handle more than just nouns.
Okay, I can see how that builds naturally, one step then the next. What's another practical approach? How else can we make this shift?
Self-talk is another really effective one, a powerful technique.
Self-talk, okay.
This just means basically narrating your actions to yourself in English as you go about your day.
It's like,
You're making breakfast. You might think, I'm opening the refrigerator. I'm taking out the milk. Now I am pouring the milk into my cereal.
You might feel a little, I don't know, a bit weird at first, talking to yourself in your head in another language.
It can, yeah. It definitely can feel a bit strange initially.
Yeah.
But it's such a powerful way to constantly engage with English, right? In the context of your actual life.
I like that. It's like having a constant practice partner built into your own head. Always there.
Pretty much.
Okay, but what happens when, you're trying to do this, thinking in English, maybe narrating something, and you hit a word you just don't know? That's got to happen all the time.
Oh, absolutely. That's a really important point, and it's bound to happen. The advice usually given is, okay, when you hit that wall, that unknown word, Make a conscious effort to look it up. Find out what it is in English.
Right, dictionary app or whatever.
Sure. But crucially, the learning doesn't stop there. Just knowing the definition isn't quite enough for this thinking goal.
Yep.
It's really important to then say the word aloud a few times, get your mouth used to it, and then most importantly, try to use it in a simple sentence right away.
Okay, so look it up, say it, use it.
Exactly. That use it part helps integrate that new vocabulary directly into your English thought patterns. You're not just storing it as an equivalent to a word in your native language.
That makes total sense. You're building your active English vocabulary in a way that's ready for your thoughts to grab, not just for recognizing when you read it.
Precisely. It makes it more readily available for spontaneous thought and speech.
Okay. Another technique that popped up was imagining scenarios. How does that fit in? How does that help?
Right. Imagining scenarios. It's kind of like creating little mental simulations. Practice runs for real-world conversations.
Okay.
So you picture a simple situation. Maybe you're at a grocery store and you need to buy apples and bread. Then in your mind, you just run through the scene. Think about what you would say in English. Excuse me, where are the apples? I need a loaf of bread. How much is this? That kind of thing.
Ah, like a mental rehearsal.
Exactly. It prepares you for those actual interactions.
Yeah.
It helps train your brain to think on its feet in English when you're actually in that situation. Less panic, more preparedness.
So, okay, we've got these tools. Labeling, describing, self-talk, that active vocabulary building, and these mental rehearsals. That's a good toolkit. But how do we actually weave these into our lives, consistently? It's easy to forget.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Building the daily habit. It's absolutely essential.
Yeah.
The material we looked at really emphasizes setting aside even a short amount of time each day, maybe just 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever you can manage, but dedicate it specifically to actively trying to think in English using one of these techniques.
Consistency over quantity, maybe.
Definitely. And simple environmental changes can help too, like changing your phone's operating system language to English.
Oh, yeah, that forces you to interact with it.
It does. It increases your passive exposure, but also compels you to, navigate menus and understand notifications in English. Practical context.
What else?
Even super simple stuff. Writing your grocery lists in English. Or your daily to-do list.
Right. Buy milk, call dentist, finish report.
Exactly. It seems small, but it's another way to integrate English thinking into just normal routine tasks.
Yeah.
These small, consistent actions, they really do add up. They compound over time.
It's about making English the default setting in your brain, even for tiny things, not always reaching for your native language first.
That's the idea. Shifting that default.
Yeah, there was a simple little exercise mentioned in the sources just to illustrate the point. Can we walk through that quickly just to see how even basic sentences help this whole process?
Sure. Yeah, it was a very straightforward example. Something like a sequence. I am walking in the park. Then maybe the sun is shining. Followed by, I see children playing.
Okay, simple observations.
Right. And then maybe building on it slightly, I feel happy because the weather is nice, or I hear birds singing, and perhaps I decide to sit on a bench and read a book.
And the key thing here, it's not about using, like, super complex grammar or fancy vocabulary, is it?
Not at all. That's not the point of that exercise.
It's more about practicing making those natural connections, observation, feeling, action, all within the framework of English sentences.
Exactly that. Even those really simple sentences, when you consciously construct them in English in your mind, they help solidify those basic English thinking pathways.
So you're not translating "the sun is shining" from another language.
No, you're directly associating the visual, the feeling of the sun, with the English sentence structure and the words sun and shining. It's about building those automatic direct associations.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about the wiring, not just the complexity.
Like building the foundational wiring.
So as we, as listeners try to make this shift, try to think more in English,
Sure.
What are the really core principles we should keep front of mind?
Well, the insights we reviewed, they really boil down to 2 key things, I think. First, persistence and patience. It just takes time.
Right, it's not overnight.
Definitely not. It takes consistent effort to rewire mental habits you've had for years, maybe decades. So you have to be patient with yourself. Recognize it's a gradual process, no magic wand.
Okay, patience. What's the second thing?
Consistent engagement, even short, regular periods of focused English thinking, they will lead to noticeable progress over time.
So it's not about cramming for hours once a week.
Probably not as effective, no. It's more about those small, consistent mental workouts becoming just a regular part of your day, like brushing your teeth.
Got it. practice and patience, consistency and time.
That's the essence of it.
Okay, let's try and bring this all together for you, the listener, thinking in English.
Yeah, it might seem like a big hurdle at first, a bit daunting maybe,
It can feel that way.
but the payoff is huge, right? For your fluency, for how natural you sound when you speak.
Absolutely. Big benefits. We've gone through some really practical techniques. Labeling stuff around you, describing what you see, doing that internal self-talk narration.
Actively building your vocabulary by looking up, saying, and using new words.
And doing those mental rehearsals, imagining scenarios. And the common thread through all of this seems to be building that daily habit, making a conscious effort to think in English consistently.
And remembering that it takes time. Both consistent effort and patience are absolutely key. You need both.
Yeah, you can't have one without the other, really.
Pretty much. But by actually using these strategies regularly, you can start to, dismantle that internal translation machine bit by bit.
And start interacting with English directly on a thinking level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At a cognitive level. And that doesn't just speed up your speaking. It also lets you connect more deeply with the language itself.
How so?
Well, you might start to understand nuances better, maybe grasp idioms or even humor more intuitively, because you're operating within the logic of English, not just observing it from the outside through translation. A deeper connection. I like that. So here's a final thought for you to take away. Think about the very next everyday thing you're about to do. Seriously, the next thing. Maybe it's making coffee, checking your phone, walking to the bus stop, whatever. Instead of just letting your thoughts run automatically in your native language, try just make a conscious effort to narrate that simple action to yourself in English, even if it feels a bit plunky or slow at first.
Just give it a shot.
Yeah. What new connections, even tiny ones, can you forge between your immediate thoughts in the English language right there in that seemingly small, ordinary moment?